Okay. Well, thank you all so much for being here today and for joining us. My name is Kelsey Ellis, and I am the ZAP Impact Program Manager. Just a few notes while we're getting started. First of all, because I do think we're going to have a bunch more people join us, just take a moment to make sure that you are muted. While it's pretty casual and conversational, if you have questions during the presentation and the content, go ahead and throw that in the chat and I'll be watching that. Or you can use the raise hand function. And then also just know we have time at the end for questions if you want to save them for that time as well. We are recording this session, so later today I will send you an email as well as to everybody else that has RSVP'd. So you will get a link to where I will post this on our website, but I will also include a link to a brief survey. It's always helpful if you want to provide feedback on the workshop. But in addition to just the workshop, it's great. There's a section there that if you have ideas of workshops or content you're looking to maybe get a little more training in, give me some ideas. You can, oh, let's go one more mute. Go ahead and throw some ideas of anything you want covered in these ZAP workshops. I'm always excited to hear what you have to say in terms of areas you want some support in. But also, one of the goals of the Impact Program is really taking the opportunity to celebrate one another and our successes. So if you have work that you are doing that you're really proud of for your organization, that's also a great workshop topic. So just know that I love to share out your successes. And once you do, tell us a little bit about what you're doing. Chances are there's somebody out there that's like going through the same thing and could learn from your experiences. So I love our peer-to-peer sharing that we're doing through our Impact Program. And don't be afraid to brag. So, and speaking of bragging, I do have to say that we have some amazing people who are presenting today. So these amazing humans are really have taken the volunteer management of the usher program at Salt Lake County to the next level. So we have Krystal, Calderas, and Lori Matsukawa from our Arts and Culture Patron Services team. I will let them introduce themselves and talk a little bit more, but I'm really excited to have them here today. And so I will turn the time over to them. So go right ahead. Thank you.
Hello, thank you. Super excited to be here. So thank you, Kelsey, for including us today. Like you said, I'm Krystal Cardenas. I'm the Patron Services Program Manager. I've been with Salt Lake County Arts and Culture since 2012. I started in Patron Services as the assistant, moved to assistant manager, and then I left for a little while to do HR. And then I've been in the program manager position now for about 3 years. It's a really fun program, so we're excited what we're going to share with you today. And then I'll let Lori introduce herself.
Thank you. I am Lori Matsukawa, and I'm the volunteer coordinator for our department at Salt Lake Arts and Culture. And my background, I've been in the volunteer realm for, gosh, almost 25 years. So a long time. I started out at the Utah Botanical Center. As part of my duties there, I helped run the Master Gardener program, which is a volunteer program. And then I went from there to Utah's Hogle Zoo and was their volunteer coordinator for many years, running that program. I did a short stint with Sundance Film Festival. I wanted to get a taste of running a very large festival volunteer program. I was one of their volunteer coordinators there, so tons of fun. And then I came to Salt Lake Arts and Culture, and I've been with Patron Services for about 6 years now in this department.
Yeah, so Lori, as you can see, has tons of experience in this field, so we're very lucky to have her on our team. I'm going to share my screen now, and we'll go through our presentation. Can everybody see that okay? Okay, great. So our agenda today will be kind of a little bit more about our program. Then we'll talk about program and position development, recruitment, rewards and retention, and then, as Kelsey said, leave time at the end for Q&A. So our usher program, we provide it's called front of house staff for all of the Salt Lake County venues. So they're the venues listed at the bottom. We have about 20 paid ushers that handle around 200 shifts per month. And then the rest are volunteer ushers, and they handle over 1,000 shifts per month, especially these busy months that we're experiencing right now. All of the events have an on-site manager, and then it's just whoever signs up to work that event, basically. So they could have a mix of paid and volunteer. A little bit of history for us. In 2014, we had 179 volunteers, and last year we were at 360. And so with that, you can see the huge difference in hours volunteered as well. So 2014, we were just under 20,000 hours volunteered. And last year, we had 46,000 volunteer hours with our team, which is huge, really. And then the venue increase is why our numbers have increased so much. So we kind of had forced growth with the addition of Eccles Theater, and then that was 2016, and then Mid Valley in 2021. And like I said, it's a mix that may be covering of paid or volunteers, but the majority are volunteers. So if you go to a Wicked show at Eccles, you know, in the coming weeks, it's like mostly a volunteer team that's showing you to your seats or taking your tickets or whatever it is. We're going to move into program and position development now. This is just a cute picture of some of our team members, which the middle is Carmel. She's one of our house managers, and then the other three are volunteers who have been with us for many years. So some of this information is taken from a training that we took through UServe, and then also applying like how we implemented it or had already implemented it into our program, basically. So we think it's important before you either start your volunteer program, or if you've already started, kind of go back and ask yourself these questions, like the who, what, when, and where. So who is your target audience, and what skills do they need to have? What are the duties you want your volunteers to perform? When will they be needed? And then where does this opportunity take place? So for us specifically, just to give examples, we want volunteers who are passionate about the arts and have an excitement to kind of enhance that patron experience. We've learned kind of our lesson that for a long time we were advertising, come and see a free show. You know, you're volunteering, but you get to see the free show. And that was kind of bringing in people who maybe weren't as outgoing or really were more a little self-serving than wanting to help the patron. So we've changed that language now that you're coming to enhance the patron's experience. And yes, a perk is that you get to see the show, you know, after you've done your duties, basically. The what for us, ushers could be a ticket taker, an inside usher, or coat check. So we train them on all three of those things, so they are well trained to do any of them. And then we advertise the when that, of course, most of our events are nights and weekends. So we have a lot of daytime events as well, like different conferences or student shows. So we make sure we give all that information to the volunteers. And then the where, likely our beautiful venues that we have. Some preparation that you're going to want to do for your volunteers. And this is, you know, all the nitty gritty before you're actually putting your name out there is what we've found. So do you have a website for your volunteers? Do you have an orientation or information that the volunteer can determine themselves if this is a good fit? Do you have a job description? Will they need an application? Will they need a background check? You know, all depending on what you are asking volunteers to do, just thinking about all these things in advance really helps you be prepared for them. The last two, will they need to sign a contract? And then what is your onboarding process? And I will send Kelsey all these slides afterwards too, so you have all these questions on hand. But I'm going to kind of just go through, again, our process a little bit so you can see what these questions look like, you know, for a volunteer group. So for us, we advertise on the website, our Salt Lake County Arts and Culture website. So this is also shared with Arctics. where people can find out what events there are. So under the Learn About Us tab, there is a Volunteer Usher Program tab, and this is the page that it leads you to. So we have the Apply Here, which will take you to a different page, but then we recently, in the last couple of years, added this frequently asked questions. And I think this is the first step in people determining if this is the right fit for them, like where do they get to go? How often are they supposed to volunteer? How long is a volunteer shift? All those questions are right there for them to see immediately, so that if they're only looking for something maybe once a month, this isn't quite the right opportunity for them. For us, once they click the Apply Here tab, we then go into, we use a system called Better Impact, or it's also My Impact. This button takes them to this page where they can get more information. So this is where we link them to our video orientation. And then the application is, link is right there up in the corner. Let's see, after they review this orientation, that's when we would ask them to come back here and fill out an application. So since we're with the county, we have different requirements that they have to meet, so that they're covered with workers' comp, or, agreeing to certain items that are very specific to us. So we kind of have that all right here. Better Impact is what we use from the beginning all the way to the end. So we use it for our application. They schedule an interview here. Our training, the majority of our training is here too. And then all of our shifts where they schedule what they're actually going to volunteer at. So we really love this system, but we are a very big organization, so that's why it works for us. But other systems that we know that people use are Volgistics. I've recently heard of Volunteer Matters. I don't know a lot about it. And then I think for smaller things, if maybe you're just looking for volunteers like once or twice a year, Sign Up Genius works great. I know, like, for my daughter's school, the PTA uses it and it works really wonderful. And then also I've heard that people just use Google Sheets. And so it's finding what works right for you, depending, again, what you're looking for. But we're always happy if somebody's interested in Better Impact to walk you through if you ever wanted to set something like that up. Let's see. So after to go to our orientation, again, they click this link down here. This is Patron Services Usher Orientation, and that's going to take them to a YouTube page. Sorry, I don't want to play that just yet. But pre-COVID, we used to have an in-person orientation where people would come downtown to a venue. We could maybe get like 20, 25 people, and then they'd go through the whole thing, figure out what the requirements are, and then maybe only like 5 of them would actually sign up for an interview. So we kind of found that it's great to meet them in person, of course, but then when that many of them end up not following through, or it's not the right fit, after COVID, we kind of just found that it wasn't the best source of our time. So we've now moved to this online video orientation. This one was just made with PowerPoint, and then our assistant manager did the audio recording. So all in-house, no cost to it really. And this is our who, what, when, where that we talked about a little while ago. So the usher or the volunteer can see everything that is required of them in this usher orientation video. The video has had over 1,000 views. And then we know that we are not getting 1,000 applicants. So that just shows, that people are kind of weeding themselves out, which we appreciate, that we're not spending 30 minutes with somebody who then finds out they're not going to be able to stand for 4 hours, or they don't want to do the dress code or whatever it is. So this orientation has really, I feel like, been our biggest time saver and gets people in the door that are truly interested in ushering. With the orientation, so our process is they do the orientation, then schedule an interview, and that's through WebEx, what we're using right now. And that's kind of when we ask a few more questions. And then from there, then they can start training. So our training process, I feel like, has been where we've put our most resources in the last 2 years. The biggest lesson I think I learned coming on is that if you don't have your training set, then it doesn't matter how many people you bring on, because if you're not ready for them, it really doesn't matter. You're going to lose them because they're going to be like, well, what are they doing, or what's going on, that type of thing. So we have this overall goal of like eventually reaching 500 volunteers. And I realized like we're not going to reach that if we don't, really decide what our training process is going to be. And so it went from, again, pre-COVID, I don't know when I'm going to have to stop saying pre-COVID, but it used to be a 4-hour training that people would come downtown, sit in, our conference room, and we would go over a manual. And that kind of just didn't really work with, what we wanted to do anymore. There were complaints about it. So we kind of thought about what we wanted to do instead. And we've moved to online videos. And then we also have a handbook. So some advice that we've found with training is you just want to be very specific in what you're asking them to do. That's where the job description helps. Like, what are all the essential functions that they're going to have to do to be successful in this role? Don't assume that everyone has the same skill set. I have found that many times that I just think so many people say, oh, it's common sense, or, oh, they're going to get that. And you really, not to say that there's not common sense, because, that's not very kind, but people think so differently that you really do just want to be able to like have it written out for them, and they know exactly what you expect for them, what they're doing there, all of that. And then you just want to plan for different learning styles. So we have our videos, we have our written documentation, and then we also do on-site training and tours. So we kind of mix it up with everything. But again, that is because our volunteer process, our volunteer opportunity is a little bit more intense, with knowing the venues and all of that. I'm going to give you just a couple of examples of what the training looks like. So you saw the orientation where we just made that in-house. And then we have spent money on more professionally done videos. So recently, Lori has helped us start working with some businesses to get some groups of volunteers in that maybe will only come in for one night for like Wicked. But we needed a training that was specific to them that's not going to turn them off right away. So then we invested in more corporate video. And I'm just going to play a couple seconds so you can kind of see the difference. So that one, you can tell there's just a different style to it. This video ends up being about 20 minutes long, but it covers everything that the one position would do, and then like has safety, where they would evacuate, things like that that are very specific. So again, that's just an example of that you can do it in-house. Sorry, in-house with PowerPoint, or you can, if you have the budget, to go get them professionally made. So this is how our training looks like. Again, we have the usher training videos. So we have 6 of them that we make everybody watch. And then we also, with Better Impact, has a file section. So then that's all our written training. And we don't make it a requirement for everybody. We just word it that like, here's a tool, depending on how you learn, to make you feel more successful in the role. And we found that it's great when you could go into the interview and you do your whole spiel, and then you're like, do you have any questions? And they say, no, you've answered everything already. Like, that's a really good feeling. So, all right, I am going to turn it over to Lori for recruitment and recognition now.
Great. So recruitment is probably one of the most difficult things for me personally. It's just finding those specific volunteers that you need that fit in with your group and what you need them to do. Recruiting really starts with knowing what you're expecting of the volunteers and what is best. For us here at Arts and Culture, we have a very solid older group of volunteers, retired people who can spend time at their leisure with us and again, love the arts. But we have really been trying to recruit some different demographics. So some younger clientele. Again, Krystal mentioned our corporate volunteers that we're trying to bring in that different segment of our community. And then for us, we have really started doing a lot of uh, Spanish speaking performances. And so recruiting people who are bilingual is really important to us, and we're working on that. But it's knowing your volunteer, what you need. Is it going to be a one-time volunteer, or are you like us where we want someone that's going to stay with us for years and years? Are you doing family groups, or are you just looking for a certain type of volunteer? So know that first, and then you can jump into your recruitment efforts. For us here, social media has been a huge boost to us. So we do post on social media, of course, through the county. We have Instagram accounts and things like that with the theaters. And what works great for us is they will do a post about an upcoming event. So I'll use Wicked as an example. Wicked's at Eccles for the next 5 weeks, 4 weeks now. But we can also then throw in a post about, here is our volunteer program. If you're interested, come to our website and take a look at our orientation. So we use social media a lot, and it's been very successful for us. The other thing for us here at the theaters is word of mouth. We're lucky enough to bring in thousands of people from the community in an evening. You know, our Eccles Theater holds 2,500 plus people. And when they come to a show, we can recruit right there. Not that we do it heavily or interrupt them during their time at the theater, but a lot of people will ask, oh, tell me about ushering or whatever. And one of the things that has been really good for us is our current volunteers will carry little business cards that we've developed that have a QR code on the back of it. And the QR code will take people directly to our volunteer page. So on our website, they can just use the QR code, jump onto the website, again, see all the frequently asked questions and the orientation. And it really does boost our numbers that way. So it's finding those people that are already interested in the arts and then pulling them in to volunteer with us. Our website, again, like Krystal said, giving all the good information so that people know exactly what they can do, and having a way to be responsive to them, whether it's an automatic email once they click on something that says, thank you for your application, we'll get back to you, something like that, so that they know you've acknowledged they've been there and are interested. And then there are a lot of really good volunteer recruitment sites. Just Serve is one. They are a nonprofit. They allow nonprofits to advertise through them. Volunteer Match is great. We get a lot of people from Volunteer Match because people will Google volunteering in Utah and they pop up. So get yourself on those websites. And then there's places like the Binion Center at the university where you can contact them and they can help you recruit through their student system, especially if you're looking for specific students. I know working at the zoo, we recruited through the biology department, and that gave us a lot of insight into students that wanted just experience in that realm. And so whatever your volunteer needs are, look at those different aspects also. We do have a county newsletter that our information goes out in, and then mass emails. We work with ArtTix, which is our ticketing producers. They sell our tickets, and they have mailing lists, and every once in a while we'll put something about our volunteer program that goes out to the clients that they have buying tickets for our theaters. And so all of those things put together, we kind of use as our recruitment tools. Another place that we've found helpful is the Utah Professional Association of Volunteer Engagement. It's a group in Utah of volunteer managers that get together quarterly, and they actually assist each other. They have a little lecture, they do lunch, and then it's just networking. It's a great place to meet other volunteer coordinators, get more information, and then you can put your volunteer information out to all those groups. We found that if a volunteer volunteers for one group, more than likely they volunteer for multiple. That's just in their nature to volunteer. So it's a great resource. UServe is another one. So UServe is one of the government entities that has great information also. Okay, that's recruitment. Let's go on to rewards and recognition. The one thing we do know is that keeping your volunteers happy and keeping them with you is very important to us. Like I said, we want to have long-term volunteers that stay with us for many years. And so one of the most important things is that people want to feel needed and important to you. So making sure that from the very beginning, when they first contact you, throughout their whole time with you, that you are acknowledging them, making sure you have enough for them to do when they come, that you're clear on what you need them to do, that they're not wandering around wondering what's going on at your event or your situation. And just making them feel welcomed is a huge part of it, and that they have come and spent their time wisely with you. One of the things for rewards and retention is making sure that you respond quickly to them. And so communication is a huge part of it. Constant communication with your volunteers is a key. Quick responses to emails or questions. For us here at Arts and Culture, because we have such a large volunteer group, we need to respond to them quickly. Sometimes it's immediate. The information they need is about an upcoming show or an issue they're having. So we actually started an email inbox that is specifically for all of our volunteers and paid staff. They can email us there. And then as our staff in the office, each takes a day, and we monitor that mailbox constantly so that anytime someone is emailing us, we respond to them that day or immediately so that their questions are answered. And it makes a huge difference to our volunteers getting the information that they need. Thank yous are a big part of the whole retention part of it. So we are very pro telling thank you in person, but also thank you cards. All of our venues in our offices have thank you cards that we can send out to anyone or give to them immediately. People love to have some little thank you from you, whether it's verbal or written. And then we have developed an ambassador team, and we have team leads at our venues. We have a volunteer experience committee that we created, and we have taken volunteers who are interested on our committee, and their main focus for us is to make sure that our volunteers are having a really good experience. And where we have 5 venues, most nights something is going on at those multiple venues, and we can't be everywhere. So this committee helps us by really keeping those volunteers happy and engaged. The volunteers can ask them questions that they then relay to us. If there is an issue or someone is unhappy with something has happened, they know that they can go to these committee members, and then they will come to us and we'll resolve the issues. We meet with them once a month and go over any problems or issues that they've found with our volunteers. So it's a great connection for us to have that additional group of people that help us with our retention of our volunteers. Okay, rewards. Let's move on to rewards. making a volunteer feel like they have spent their time wisely and that you appreciate them is huge. And we at Arts and Culture really want to build a culture of appreciation for our volunteers and our staff, because we know that that then reflects out to our patrons. So if our staff is happy, our volunteers are happy and feel appreciated, they will make the patrons feel appreciated when they arrive at our venues. We have social events and awards events that we use to reward our staff. And this picture is from ours last year. We do a yearly award event where we get everyone together at one of our venues. We do it in 2 nights because our group is so large that we can't all fit together. And so we give them dinner, we provide dinner for them, we do activities and trainings, and then we get together and we do our awards. And we'll recognize them for hours spent with us, shifts that they've done. When we have big runs, like right now, we have Wicked for 5 weeks. We give bonuses and rewards for people that have helped us out. We recognize milestones, like 5-year, 10-year, 30-year. I think our volunteers that have been with us the longest are about at a 30-year mark, which is amazing. So look for perks that you can give them. Some of the things can be costly and some can cost you nothing at all. With our milestones, we give them little pins with their years of service on them and things like that. So simple things you can do for them. Look for partners in your community that can really help you with some of the rewards you want to give. Again, we're lucky here. We have a lot of partners that come to us as clients. So Ballet West, the Symphony, Opera, Plan B Theater. As an example, Plan B Theater will do a run of a show, and a lot of times when they're doing their last rehearsals, they'll actually invite our volunteers to come as a perk to see the show. And so the volunteers love that. They kind of get to experience it before anybody else does. But look for those community partners who might have items you can do as giveaways or little perks that you can use to say thank you to your volunteers. And then part of rewards, there are some governor awards. The Lieutenant Governor's Public Service Award is one that you can nominate your volunteers for. Power of Service Award is given out 3 times a year by usher. So that's another one that you can nominate your volunteers and they'll get recognized at some of their promotional events and stuff. So that's really cool. Next, some of our rewards that we do just as examples for our staff. We have what we call All Stars. And this is if you have done the required shifts we ask of you each month, you become an all-star. And then we put all of the all-stars into a drawing each month, and they receive what we call Kudos Cash. And our Kudos Cash program is where anytime a volunteer goes above and beyond, does something really great for a staff member, another volunteer, or a patron, they can be nominated by anyone, by our management staff, by other volunteers, and you receive Kudos Cash. And then those kudos can be spent in our store. And our store has different items like promotions from our events. We have mugs and t-shirts and signed playbills by all the cast members of our big Broadway shows and things like that that interest our volunteers. So those things they can buy after they've earned Kudos Cash. The other thing we've found that our volunteers really love as a great reward for them, we do social events quarterly, and we try to make those social events involve something that they may not normally get to do. So behind the scenes in our theaters, or going up on stage and seeing parts of the theater that normally people don't get to see, or a performance or an activity done by one of our residents, or things like that. And the great thing about our socials is usually they don't really require us to use our budget for it. So we try to find things that are just within our realm and interesting to volunteers. And then we usually have little treats and have some social time to just sit and visit with each other. So it's kind of nice. They love that reward. The other thing for us is scheduling perks. So the way that our volunteer system works is we allow our volunteers to choose their own schedule. So they decide what shows they want to see and the time and date they want to see it. And so every month they get to sign up for their shows for the next following month. And if someone has earned a perk, so say they've done multiple Wicked shows and we want to give them a reward, they will get a sign up perk where they get to sign up for the shows they want before anyone else has a chance to. And so it really is a benefit to them and they love that reward. So that's kind of how we manage a lot of our systems. And I think I'll turn it back to Krystal here.
Yeah. There's our contact information, but we'll send that again to Kelsey, but I'll stop sharing just so we can do, if there were any questions, so we're not staring at a big PowerPoint.
I'll pause. We had one question in the chat, which I'll get to, but I really appreciate as you walk through your program, the emphasis on a lot of that pre-work. Like really, you're going to save yourself some troubles maybe down the line when you really prep your volunteers and your team for the commitments and the understanding so that everyone has a good experience, right? Everybody should be there to get something out of that time that they're spending. And then also the value and importance of just continually investing in people who are there helping out. So I really appreciate all of your kind of tips and tricks and things that I think are very scalable for whether you have hundreds of volunteers or just a few. So as we jump into questions, I'm going to start with the one that's in the chat first, which is a great question. So Tori was asking, they go online and they watch their videos, but how do you know that they've watched the training videos? What is kind of your sign off or, checking their work, if you will?
Yeah, good question. So that's where Better Impact is a really great system. I swear we pay them, but it sounds like they pay us to talk about them. So at the end of each video, we can ask a question and they answer that question and it changes it. We qualify, it's a qualification that's attached. So it changes it to show past, and then we can see everybody who's done the video. Now, of course, this is still, it's part an honor system, they could just answer the question and not watch the whole video. But then that's where it's kind of up to us and the management holding them accountable on site that hey, you said you watched this, but hey, you're breaking this policy, or did you not quite understand what this meant because, again, you watched the video. So just asking those questions, and it's a great tool and we love it, but it's also, just an accountability thing of trusting that they are going to watch the full thing. We do get analytics from the person who made the videos also, so we can see how many people actually watched it, and then to what point maybe they stopped watching it. And we've seen that when we first launched them, they were really great. Actually, most people watched it to the very end. So it wasn't, I feel like people, if they're coming on, they're doing the orientation, they're doing the interview, they're not going to waste their time and be nervous, to then not watch the full video. So yeah, that's kind of the long answer to that, but the system helps us, the video editor helps us, and then just trusting people that they want to do a good job and that they're going to watch the content.
That's excellent. Yeah, that was a good question. I think if you have a question, you can throw it in the chat or you can unmute and go ahead and shout it out. And I'll give a moment. I have some questions too, so. Do you take tell me how you work with youth volunteers. Like, do you take anyone under 18, or how do you handle those?
Yeah, we do. So recently, well, not so recently, probably 2 seasons ago now, we've started our youth usher program that's just focused on Broadway shows because getting downtown could be scary for parents. Staying late after, the shows don't end till 10 o'clock could be scary for kids and parents. So we started Youth Usher where kids are guaranteed the matinee of the Saturday Broadway show. We have about 6 kids right now that do it consistently. So they come for every matinee. We're going to build that back up again. We kind of took a pause after we saw how it was. So we're going to start recruiting for that again as this new 25-26 season starts for Broadway. And our plan is just putting a flyer together and emailing all the teachers and kind of seeing how it goes. We also get a lot of like parent and kid partnerships. So like somebody will, they'll come volunteer with their child. They do have to just be at least 15 years old. So we just double check on that. And then we also have started kind of a partnership with this Salt Lake County runs youth government. And since they kind of already have their group who meets monthly, we recently just met with them at their monthly meeting, and they're going to come and volunteer at a matinee with us also. So we'll be there. It's kind of hopefully to like get them excited about it, and maybe they'll keep going. Maybe they'll only do the one time, you never know, but just puts their foot in the door. But that's definitely an area that we're also trying to grow. So it's kind of just seeing what fits, what's too much of a requirement. We've learned our lessons that like May is a terrible month to try to ask them to do anything. Start of the school is also really hard, but during kind of winter, January, February are good times. So we are still kind of learning all of like when's the best time to reach out to people. But yeah.
I think there's always the youth groups are always tricky, right? It seems like a great opportunity, and it's also comes with its challenges, I think. Any other questions? Again, I have a list of questions. I got excited while I was watching, but I definitely want to make sure we answer anybody else who's on here who has questions. Have you oh, Dylan, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, I was unmuted, or muted rather. Our organization does not have any sort of volunteer program. But after listening, I'm kind of realizing that we might need someone to step up for like leading the volunteer program of our organization. What kind of skills ought we to look for someone who can become a volunteer coordinator?
I love that question because I feel like it's such a personality question, but maybe some hard skills as well. Krystal, you have some thoughts?
Yeah, so I think I'll let Lori answer that question,
Okay.
but first I will put in a plug for the USERV trainings because they will give you a whole thing on why it's important to have somebody dedicated to the role and not just like a little bit of everybody, and just the value and how you can like appeal to like your board or whoever it is and why the position is needed. So looking up USERV would be a big benefit. But then I'll let Lori answer that question because that's her. So
Yeah. And I think the biggest thing is you'll find a lot of people that bring in someone who say, this is your curator of, trees, but we want you to do volunteer coordinating also. And so that happens a lot within organizations, but I think that can be okay, but you need to find someone that truly loves working with people, because you have got to be able to communicate and answer questions and be available to people. And then organizational skills, someone that can really organize, manage them the day of your event or the times that you have them, and then be able to schedule and do all of those things. And then depending on how you're going to do it, if you don't have a system that you're working in, be computer literate so that you can work within Google Sheets or like our system, Better Impact. So those skills, but definitely your people skills are top of mind for sure.
Yeah, I want to just jump in and reiterate the people skills just because. So for Lori specifically, and just how amazing she is, we have such a large group, and we've realized like you're going to get asked the same question over and over again, right? And so you can't be a person. You need to realize your own skill set that like you can't be frustrated that you just answered that question to somebody else and like, oh, I just said this, or oh, didn't you hear me? You know, like you have to treat them all like it's the first time you're hearing that question and just be like so kind, because I mean, we have lost people, not from like because of office, but they didn't feel like they were treated really great. So it's not just your volunteer coordinator as being a people person, but everybody who's going to work with your volunteers and understanding the value that they bring. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's really important, that leading with kindness and just being able to reset every time. Doesn't matter that you have an FAQ page. It doesn't matter that you have videos. Somebody's going to ask you those questions again, right? We have a few questions in the chat. And so Jen was asking if you have or use volunteers for non-patron facing responsibilities, you know, back of house, set painting, handing out flowers at community events. And do you think that would look different?
Currently, we don't. It is all patron facing. We are kind of experiencing those asks a little bit more actually from other departments within us. Like, for example, we've helped ZAP out with their summer party at Wheeler Farm. And so we've asked some of our volunteers to do that. And then, you know, I think just asking people if they're willing to do it, and then you get the feedback if it worked for them afterwards is kind of how we've led it. And one thing that we've started to take on, it's still patron facing, but like doing surveys for our community engagement team. So they bring an iPad, and you know the person isn't ushering that night, but they're taking surveys. So we've gone back and forth, like, do we create this different team and advertise it differently and, you know, don't include our current group, or do we just add it to what our current group is doing and see who's interested? And that's kind of where we're leading it, because why start over when we have such a good group of people who are willing to kind of try new things? But yeah, right now it's mainly just patron facing.
I really appreciate that acknowledgement that it's just because they've signed up for volunteers, you've trained them in the world of this usher patron services, and to ask them to do something else is a little different than what they signed up for. So being mindful of that is really valuable. I think it's respecting your volunteers very much. So John has a question, which I think this is a great question as well, that how are you managing or balancing the responsibilities between your paid versus your volunteer ushers? Are you asking more of their paid ushers versus the volunteers? And do you have a limited number of those paid usher positions?
Yeah, so right now with our budget, we are limited to 20 paid ushers. So that is not very many compared to our 360 volunteers. The main difference is just the requirement of what they're asked to do. So for May, for example, we've asked that our paid ushers work 15 events, and that the volunteers, if they're able to do 5 events, but there's no like penalties if they can only do a couple of events or 1 event, that type of thing. And then I think the other thing that we are really trying to set apart with our paid ushers is that they are kind of like the lead in a sense, you know, that they should be the example that our volunteers follow of what not to do, what to do, you know, great customer service, things like that. But that's something we've been exploring because it hasn't always been that way. It used to just be like the only difference was the number of shifts you do per month. And we kind of are like, well, that's not really fair to the volunteers, you know? That just because you're paid, you're asked to do more, but it's all the same requirements, you know, that you're ticket taking or that, you know, those kinds of things. So we are trying to define that line a little bit more as we grow.
Yeah, that's great. And Jen, I love the follow-up point about widening the possibilities for volunteers through those who are already kind of, maybe they don't want to do public facing, but they still want to be engaged, and using that as a recruitment tool or at least an option. And I think that's a good mindset to have, especially if you think about your existing, support people. So whether it's your board members or your staff or people that have volunteered once, maybe they might be interested in another program you do. So I think that's a really important mindset to have when you have a group of people who already appreciate and support what you do. Where else could they maybe be interested in being engaged? So that's a good point. Okay, we are kind of coming up on that 1 o'clock time, but we still do have time. So if we have any other questions, happy to keep answering those. And then as those questions do come in, and Martin, I will get to yours in just one moment. I'll let you chat, but I do want to thank you if any of you drop off, which is fine. Thank you so much for coming today. Again, I'll follow up with an email with links to where we're going to post the video. And then also in that email, I'll get a couple of links for some of those resources we talked about today from Lori and Krystal, and make sure those are in the email, and maybe a link to, or I'll attach the PowerPoint as well, so you have that information. So Martin, go right ahead.
Thank you. First off, Kelsey, Krystal, Lori, thank you so much for doing this, hosting it, and having us and sharing this information. My question is, we have a pretty good sized program over here at Craft Lake City, but I was really interested when you guys were talking about having a volunteer committee. How would you recommend starting that? And I would love to know more about that. Thank you.
Yeah, good question. And Craft Lake City is huge. I used to work for them a few years ago with HR, so I get it. So our committee is new. This is only, I think, the second year that we've had it. So how it was a suggestion from a volunteer, actually, that, like, how can we give feedback? And so we went back and we handpicked a few volunteers to kind of help us decide what this could look like. What are the requirements? What do we want them to do? What don't we want them to do? Like, we don't want them policing other ushers, but we do want them to be able to give advice. So what are we looking for? So we kind of handpicked this smaller committee to kind of draft what the experience committee would look like. And then from there, after we had everything written up, then we opened it up and we let people apply for it. And so we had some pretty good interest. We had, I think, 9 or 10 people the first year, and then this year we're currently at 8 people. And the feedback they give, like, truly is so wonderful. Like, it's probably the one meeting I guarantee every month that I come back energized from because of everything that they give us, So it's still a learning curve, figuring out, like, terms, how long people stay on, those kinds of things. But I think just starting with a few people that, like, they've been around for a while, new people, and then just kind of building it from there.
Yeah, that seems to be an extremely valuable tool for those who have the highest, like, number of hours engagement with patrons, right? And they're the ones that are seeing things at the ground level. Hey, I noticed this, or this is happening a lot, and you don't always get to see that or find that feedback. So I think that's a really great idea. Okay, well, again, thanks everyone so much for being here today. And I hope that you were able to get some useful little nuggets to take back to your work. And if you have any questions or follow up, or kind of marinate on things and you need to follow up, shoot us an email. You can send it to me. I'll make sure these ladies get it. And thank you so much to Krystal and Lori for being here today and sharing your expertise with us. It was wonderful. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
Thank you for having us. Thanks.